the last module.
Yay.
We're almost there.
7B for 75.
7B, we'll start on page 103, but we need to go back to, we need to go to page 95 again. And then, I know Jose went over again for the learning objectives that we're going to be going through right now. So, just to go what you went today, just giving an example of what you did in the activity. You're almost like the one that you did. You started with your need. You already have your mission. You started with your need, and you got the information that you needed, correct? Then you went to planning, which is what? Getting the strategies or services for you to, what you're going to achieve, which is your outcome. After that, you went to the implementation. What activities are we doing to get what we want to do? Our results, your outcome indicators, and 20 out of 20 graduated from obtain the GED. You evaluate. That's why you don't put the results. Because if you don't get the results that you wanted, what do? You start again with your assessment. What do you need to do again in order to go back and reevaluate and move forward with that? So on page 102, you have the list of a logic model checklist. So this is what you can do, or that's the questions that are going to help you to actually build your logic model when you're doing it on your own, or when you're helping your agency to build their logic model. So now let's go to page 103. Using the logic model to assess clients' outcomes and program effectiveness. So on page, I'm going to give you guys an example of a logic model that was already built. It's on the book 2, okay? You have it on your book 2. It's on the next page. It's on page 104. So this is giving you an example of emergency housing and the agency missions. So you look to your logic model, you have your mission, which I know maybe you don't see it as, but here it is, the same example that you have. Then you have your mission to ensure that all families have access to safe, clean shelter, correct? Then you have your benchmarks or your needs. The families are homeless and families are at risk of obtaining or being evicted, correct? Mm-hmm. So let's go through families are homeless. Okay. What is the activity or the need? Or what is the service or activity that we need to do?
Provide emergency shelter for 50 families.
Then what will be your outcome?
Homeless families obtain emergency shelter.
What is your indicator following after that?
If you are taking for 100% of homeless families obtain emergency shelter lasting no longer than 30 days.
So again, you don't see the result right now, right? So we skip it. We don't need to look at it right now. Where is your measurement tool?
Shelter
The
law,
shelter law
client report.
What is the data source for that?
The case record.
What else?
Data entered to case record at time of encounter.
What others do they have?
Data entered by shelter case manager.
Then what is your frequency? What else?
Daily, the daily electronic report, email daily.
So after you do all of that, again, then you go to your results, which is 48 or 100% of homeless families obtain emergency shelter lasting no longer than 30 days. So we have a really good outcome, right? It looks like that. So now let's go to families that are at risk or of being evicted. What is your service?
One month emergency rent payment will be issued for 150 families.
Terry, can you read the outcome?
Families remain in their own residence.
Annette, can you read the indicator?
150 of 150 or 100% of families remain in their own residence 30 days.
Maria, can you read that measurement tool?
Housing application for data request, housing activity log showing payments, record of paying rent, client reports.
And then what data source, right? Case record data entry into automated case record at time of encounter, data entered by CAA case manager. And your frequency of data is data collected at time of encounter, summary report generated to supervisor daily, weekly report generated to department head each Monday, monthly report generated for executive director. So you've done all of that, then you go to your results again, which we have different results on this one. 142 of 155 for 92 of families remain in their own residence 30 days. 132 of 155 or 85% of families remain in their own residence 60 days. 90 of 155 or 58% of families remain in their own residence 90 days. So as you can see in the results, they actually enroll more clients, and then they have different results for the different benchmarks that they have. Remember that you can have more than one outcome indicator, more than one outcome when you're trying to get your information. Remember that we went over that you can have one service and you can have different outcomes, and they have one service with 3 different outcomes. Okay. So if we go to page 105, DCAA used a logic model to document the emergency housing program results and to monitor performance. Collecting and analyzing follow-up outcome performance data revealed the limits of the intervention and suggested that other factors may be adversely affecting the families in the community. So now I'm going to pass you around another one. This one you have it on page 106. So if you check the first part, you still have the families are at risk of being evicted and families are homeless. Correct? Then you have a new part. Families need additional services to maintain housing. After 90 days, 42% of the family lose their residence. So what they did, they went to the module. They noticed there is another need. There's still some issues going on. So instead of removing, taking this off, they got it up. And they continue working on this. But besides of doing that, the other new impacts, they have short-term, intermediate, and long-term for their services.
And they changed their mission.
Remember that I told you guys the first, when I told you about mission, you have mission change and mission drift.
Sure.
So based on what they found out, they changed the mission because they know they needed to improve. They need more on the mission so they can, for the services. Remember that that's your foundation. If they keep the same one, probably this very much what they're doing on the second part that they added to the logic model. Any questions so far, guys? No? So let's go to, so if you go to 107, something that I forgot to tell you guys in this logic model is that we need to check everything. If you notice, they have a shared Macon family because it's a family logic model. Remember that we always need to focus on the family, agency, or community. Okay. So 107, you have, this is giving you short-term, intermediate term, and long-term. This is for you guys to create the benchmarks of what they are to determine if it's a short-term goal, a long-term that is going to take more time, or it's going to be something in between. Something that is going to work really fast or not. So if we go to page 108, we have an activity. So on the module that I just gave you, this one. Let's have 5 minutes. And guys try to use this scale to identify the in crisis, the vulnerable, the stable, the safe, and the thriving based on the module that you have. for your, you need to look into all of it and check what will be thriving, what will be safe, what will be your state
¿Cómo van a
situation.
decir?
That,
Vamos
okay,
a ver
yeah,
eso.
no, the second one. Is it hard or is it easy? Hard? Okay, so let's go through it. So you have families that are at risk of being evicted. Where would you put that one? In crisis?
Vulnerable.
Okay. So you have the first one, that you're vulnerable. If you go to families that are homeless,
In crisis.
that's crisis. Okay. So we're trying to create a scale, right? So
Mhm.
family need additional services to maintain housing. Is that actually part of your scale? You're trying to see where the client is, right? On a housing situation, the homeless person. That one you actually don't specify on part.
You don't? They're not considered vulnerable?
Well, you can put it on vulnerable, but you're trying to identify on your scale what are the situations based on your scale to find the bendable in the bendable or thriving situation on home. If you put homeless families obtain emergency shelter, that's on your outcome. If they secure emergency shelter, where will you put it?
Homeless families obtain emergency shelter, that would be
Stable?
safe.
Shouldn't you put vulnerable because you're still homeless? You're on a shelter.
Yeah. It's okay.
Okay.
That is vulnerable, yeah.
If we go to outcome, the intermediate outcome, family secure temporary subsidized housing.
Where are you?
On outcome,
Oh, usually
family
it's
secure temporary
so
subsidy.
hold on.
that will be stable.
So it's
But
temporary.
it's temporary. It's stable.
Yeah, but they're secure subsidized housing. Remember that subsidized, guys, is in between. You're not necessarily vulnerable, but you are in a place, even if it's temporary, which is supposed to be, what I understand from housing, it's supposed to be temporary, not supposed to be for the long run, but
So these, okay,
the way you use it for the long run,
they're stable.
or they're stable. So if we say families obtain permanent houses,
Ah, they're thriving.
right?
Which one?
Families obtain
permanent housing, yeah.
permanent housing.
Families remain in their own residence, that's thriving as well, no?
Families remain in their own residence, yes. That's right.
Yeah. Which one?
So-
Right here, this photo. Which one? This right here. Families obtain permanent housing.
Okay guys, so you see how actually can also use a logic model to also help us to create our scale for any future services that we want to do, or it actually can help us to create or improve our services on the program that we're working. Okay, so let's go to page 109. Page 109, right? Remember that Marisela went over targets, how we identify our targets. So we have discussed the need for creating projection targets and review, establish, and recognize permanent standards for available and selected industries. Remember that these help us to get our information, our data, to provide that to the system. That's how we report to the state, and that's how we identify how we want to target. For example, case management, if they have a target of how many people they need to TOP, transition out of poverty, before the end of the year. You have a target set up, and like Marisela was telling you, she set up a target for obtaining food assistance last year, but we didn't get it this year or last year because we never get that relationship of that partnership again to work with them to get the target that we wanted to get. So establishing a target, getting your results is important when you're doing the logic model. So if we go to page 111, because I already covered this. This is about the e-logic model. This is a tool that is being used by housing right now, because they're the ones developing, working on it, and actually it's helping us to work online, not to just have it in handwriting, which is what we're doing right now. We're doing our plan, that's exactly what we're doing. We don't do it online. We need to type it out and print it, submit it, and do all this stuff instead of having it to the opportunity to just go to a web page and work on it. So the e-logic model is something that is coming in, and hopefully it will help us to improve on the services that we're providing and work on a logic model. So if we go to page 115, what services produce outcomes? What is the most effective combination of services that is needed for a customer to achieve the outcome, got a job or maintain a job for 60 days? So Ned, can you read the part in quotations, a key aspect?
Key aspect of the IMED Casey Foundation Center for Working Families model is that programs bundle and sequence services rather than offering just one component, or offering multiple components with the limit of participants to discover and seek out additional services. The hope is that services will have a more than adequate effect in promoting economic security, enabling clients to resolve immediate crises, acquire skills and credentials, get better jobs, and build the savings needed to prevent the next crisis and build for the future. Early evidence indicates that clients who receive bundled services are 3 to 4 times more likely to achieve a major economic outcome, such as staying employed, earning educational certifications, or an associate's degree, or buying a car, than clients receiving only one type of service. Delivering integrated services requires well-planned program design, the hiring and training of staff with strong skills and backgrounds, and the thoughtful use of technology and data collection.
So as you can see, it's not just one service, it's what else can you do for the client. Remember that we're trying to be focused the last couple of years, do more for the client. It's not just what you're doing right now. What else can we do? What other services can we provide? What other services can we send them so they can get or to get production of outcomes? If we refer them to a client for rental assistance and they obtain it, we count that as a outcome. It's not the agency, it's us because we send them to the agency, we refer them, and they get the outcome for us. So that accumulation is actually what is helping a lot of the CAAs or CSBG agencies that are getting funded, because that's how we can report that we're doing more than just what we provide. It's more than just providing one service. We get a throughout idea of what the client is going through. So the logic model, just to finish, is the most important tool for the agency and program accountability. The logic model is being used by many federal, state, and local funding sources as a condition of funding. The logic model can be used to support planning, monitoring, evaluation, and other management functions of a CAA. The logic model into programs options. So you have your 5 course columns, and then the accountability part, which is the last 3 ones. Develop of a logic model will take thinking and time, and is not designed to be perfect by representatives of our program or service. The logic model checklist is used to self-evaluate preparation of initial logic models. The logic model can be used for both to plan and monitor implementation. The logic model can be used to evaluate performance through a comparison of call-infer, current projected outcomes with call-infer, actual outcomes. So the E-logic model is an electronic or software-driven adaptation of the logic model and supports database of information gathering. As you can see, guys, the logic model actually helps us a lot when we're trying to plan our services in any agency. So I'm going to pass it over to Jose just to finish and give us our conclusion for the day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's been a super